yet at all the state of Israel, but really the covenant people of God. And then the other thing I would say to you is, tomorrow we're going to visit Yad Vashem, a place where the Holocaust is remembered and the suffering and death at the hands of those who would, in some very perverse sense, call themselves Christians and scapegoat the Jews. I mean, this is one of the cruelest ironies of all of this, that what is happening in a sense in this story is a very intentional sense of the end of sacrifice and scapegoat. What we're supposed to understand, I think, in this story is that the scapegoat was intended in order to stop the game of blame and putting on others our sins, and say that in a sense what God is saying is that God has taken responsibility for the sins of the world. And for us, in any way, to then blame others, scapegoat them for our benefit in some way, in order to be pure, is really to continue a cycle of religious violence that is abominable and is inexcusable from this moment. That actually the self-giving of Jesus is matching the self-giving of God. What we have here is him saying, let this cup pass. In other words, I'm going to give myself, but God is also giving God's self. There is, in a sense, for Christians, a suffering of God that is at work here. Duran was talking earlier in the bus that, this is the human Jesus suffering because the divine God is incapable of suffering, but actually for Christians, there is a kind of suffering of God that is the suffering with and for the people, that God hears the cries of the people and God suffers alongside them. And in our understanding of God, so what's happening is the Son experiences this suffering of humanity and death on a cross, and experiences it personally on behalf of all of humanity. But the Father experiences the suffering and loss of the Son in a way that any of us who are parents might know when our children suffer, and we know that we cannot do anything about it. This is the willful suffering of entering into the suffering of God, into the suffering of the man, of the world. So that when Elie Wiesel, for instance, writes Night, and he recounts this moment, when he is in the line, and there on the gallows are fellow Jews, and someone says, now where is God? And he feels within himself this sense, there, that is where God is. This same notion is what we're saying. When we look at the cross, what we see is not the victim so much as the actual picture of the care of God, who so loves us and cares for us that God would give up God's own Son. God would be personally present in order to take away the sins of the world, in order to deliver us and redeem us. And so this is some of what's going on in this agony of the garden, and Jesus' willingness to enter into it as an act of self-giving and love. Anyone else? No, it's a lot. It's this. Hard to hear? Is it okay?
Loud and clear.
Loud and clear. Okay. All right. Well, unpacking this might be a long conversation, and maybe many conversations. But what we want to do now is just to allow this to be a point of reflection. Jesus is in a garden like this, whether here or somewhere, and it is a garden of agony and prayer, of deep meditation and reflection of his relationship with God. And this church is here in part to give you an opportunity to do the same thing, to enter into that same sense of reflection of the meaning of this for you, whether Jew or Christian, and see if it can be your story as well in some way. And as a Jew, I hope that what you can hear in this is nonetheless the story of a Jew acting in some way within the tradition of Israel, even given the layers of history that have made it difficult for you to do so. I pray that you'll be able to sort of enter in a new way, in a fresh way, and experience this. So as you go through, we're going to take about 10 minutes. Inside the church there is a rock supposed to represent the rock on which Jesus fell and prayed in the garden. But quietly, personally, meditatively, just make your way through the church and eventually back out, and the buses will meet us on this side of the road. So thank you for your attention, and we can talk more in a better setting.